Hello, I'm Kate Davis, and this is Humor in the C-Suite, a show about how leaders use humor to create an extraordinary work culture. Hi, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Humor in the C-Suite. My guest this week is Hugh Forrest. He serves as the co-president and chief programming officer of South by Southwest. For his role as Chief Programming Officer, he oversees the content for the South by Southwest Conference, as well as their music festival, film festival, and the South by Southwest EDU. Forrest was named Austinite of the Year in 2012 by the Austin Chamber of Commerce, along with the South by Southwest co-founders. And in 2014, Forrest and these other South by Southwest directors were named Austin Entrepreneurs of the Year by Ernst & Young. He received an honorary doctorate, and in 2021, he was awarded the Diversity Champion of the Year by the Austin Black Business Journal. In addition to his work at the South by Southwest Festival, he has served on many boards, and he currently sits on the board of directors for the Austin-based accessibility company Nobility. Via his decades of work with the Austin Reggae Festival, he has helped raise more than $1 million in funding for the Texas Food Bank. Not only is he a good egg, an amazing human, generous, and funny, we had a great conversation about his work, how he uses humor, the power of creativity, and how not to take yourself so seriously. So please welcome Hugh Forrest. Well, thank you so much for being a guest on Humor in the C-Suite. I thought we'd just start off by telling everyone who you are and what you do. If they don't know you, I'm sure most people do. The festival is so huge. That's how I feel about me. So I thought we'd just start off by telling them who you are and what you do, and then we can get into the humor side of it.
My name is Hugh Forrest. I am president and chief programming officer at South by Southwest in beautiful Austin, Texas.
You guys do everything in that festival. It started off as a music festival.
South by Southwest started in 1987 as a music-only event, and it was fairly small and regionally focused then. The first event had about 500 total participants. 30-plus years later, we have grown a bit. We have somewhere in the neighborhood of 50,000 people who buy badges. Though there are lots of there's 150, 200,000 other people who come to Austin for the event, but don't buy a badge. We still cover a lot of music. We cover film, and by cover, I mean we have a music festival, we have a film festival, we have a conference that covers all kinds of different verticals, and specific to your audience, we also have a 4-day comedy festival within South by Southwest. So it is a week-long celebration of creativity in all its many forms. We do this in a city, Austin, Texas, that has long celebrated, cultivated, created creativity. That sounds kind of weird. We do it in a time of year in Austin, March, where it is springing already in Austin. And so you have that real feel of spring, rejuvenation, inspiration, and it works out really, really well.
I love that. And I love how it's about the creativity in all aspects. It's so funny because I have 3 kids and they take all my money. They don't pretend to like me, but I sent them all to art school. And some of them are into art, some of them aren't. But I was like, it doesn't matter. Even if you go into finance, you have to think creatively. And I love that about the festival. It really does. Like I was going through all the speakers and you alphabetically list them. And I can't believe how many different incredible humans there are, first of all. And I'm just like...
There are still lots of incredible humans in the world. And we know that we are in 2025, AI is becoming an increasingly big part of our lives. There are lots of positive things there. There are lots of potential pitfalls. But in my mind, the power, the importance, the significance of human creativity has never been more important. The AIs, the algorithms, the machines, the robots still can't do the really creative stuff that we can sometimes do. And again, that really creative stuff is what we celebrated at South by Southwest. Although certainly a lot of the content for 2025, and we've seen this for the last few years, is how do you integrate the creativity of AI algorithms, machines into your human creativity and come out with something that is the best of both worlds.
Which is why I started this podcast, a lot of it, because it's so much still about the importance of human connection.
Very much on the same page. I think that one of the things that we always find at South by Southwest, and I think this is a truism for other conferences, festivals, conventions, is that nominally we are about technology, or nominally we're about film or comedy or music or food. Really what it is at a much higher or much more basic level, it is about the power of face-to-face interaction, of human connection. And we have lots of ways to replicate that now. Riverside Studio, where we're taping this.
It's amazing.
But it's still not as powerful as being in the same room with someone.
I'm flying to Austin right now.
Yes, exactly.
It's so true. Okay, so I've been starting off the podcast with what's your favorite joke? This has pained a lot of my guests. They're like, oh, I don't know. But I mean, you can use other people's jokes. Do you have a favorite joke?
In full disclosure to your audience, you gave me this prompt beforehand, so it did pain and stress me. But
you found one.
I found one. My favorite joke, although it's maybe less a joke than just something that's easy to remember, and I'm a simpleton, so I took 2 years of Latin in high school, and I can barely remember anything from my Latin those 2 years of high school because I was probably not paying too much attention to the teacher at that point. But my favorite 4-word phrase from there, which is easy to remember and that serves my purpose as well, is semper ubi sub ubi. What does semper ubi sub ubi mean? It means always wear underwear. There.
Good. It's sound advice.
And somewhat easy to remember. Again, that's the bottom line.
No, I love it. I love it. Okay. So your team obviously over the past 3 decades has grown immensely. How are you using humor to keep everyone together? Can you talk about humor within your leadership style?
I probably need to do a much better job at that, but I think that we try to have fun. We're an event that celebrates creativity, an event that celebrates having fun. And if we're not having fun putting the event together within the many long days and long nights we're having to work, then we're probably doing something wrong. We try to laugh at our mistakes when they're laughable, try to always not take ourselves too seriously, but take our work seriously. How's that?
That's perfect. And are you finding that humor has changed so much, especially, and I'm not talking about stand-up, I'm talking about, people used to be able to, go rogue with your humor. Are you you're worried about using humor now just because of the political correctness and all that sort of stuff?
I think there are challenges there, yes, or we need to be more sensitive, and for good reason. One always needs to remember that, or should remember that humor that puts down someone else is not really the kind of humor we want to engage in.
Yeah.
I think that generally we're getting better at understanding the problems or the challenges there, but it's a long path. And I hope that those mindsets, those ideas apply to whatever ways we are using humor in the workplace at South by Southwest.
And you know what is so funny? Because the head of Pixar once said, humor doesn't make light of serious things. It helps us move forward in spite of serious things.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. And it really, do you find that if you bring humor into the workplace, it's helping you collaborate as a team?
Yeah, I think that the more you can laugh together, the more you can share some kind of genuine emotion, the more you can create bonds that will help you get through the tough and challenging times, of which there are certainly many where what we do with South by Southwest, as well as with every other job, there are good days and there are days that are not so good. And
yeah,
again, the more you can have some kind of bond with your fellow workers, whether that be humor or something else that will that helps you get through some of those more challenging days.
And I can't even imagine, like, the event is so huge now, and the amount of people it takes to run a machine and how fluid. Like, I look at event planners who are just, I do a lot of keynote speaking, who have me as an opening speaker and a closing speaker and everything that's going on that one day. And, I see how stressed they are. And we always want them to look good. We want us to look good. And I can't imagine how fluid your leadership has to be with it when the actual festival is going and things are happening.
I think I've gotten slightly better at this, something that I talk to my staff about a lot, and which really means talking to myself about it a lot because I need to hear it also, is that when you're producing events, organizing events, I think your attendees, you set the mood for your attendees. So if you're stressed out, if you're tired, if you're exhausted, if you're looking like you're not having fun, I don't think they're going to have a lot of fun. To a large degree, even with events or conferences that are focused on traditional businesses, we're still kind of in the show business, entertainment business. We need to, the show goes on no matter what. If something happened in the corner that wasn't supposed to happen, you pretend that it was supposed to happen. You don't show any, kind of panic to the attendees.
Yeah.
Even as much as you are panicking. So that is one thing that I think I've gotten a lot better on, is just being measured, being calm at the event, and trying to encourage my staff to do this. One of the things that we talk about a lot at this time of the year is, you could stay up 24 hours a day for every day for the next 3 weeks until our event begins. If you do so, you might finish everything. You probably still won't. And you're going to be exhausted when the event comes around, and you're not going to be very good on site. And the attendees are going to say, oh, I don't want to talk to that person. But if you work hard, but get a lot of sleep, get a lot of rest, hang out with your friends, hang out with your family, you're going to be feeling a lot better on site. And we set the tone, we set the mood, and ultimately we create the vibe, which our attendees will quickly pick up on. So again, I think that all fits into this idea of
humor,
having fun, having humor, enjoying yourself.
Well, it's interesting. You're looking at it from what your staff is portraying to all the people who are visiting South by Southwest, but you're doing that for your staff, right? You're the one setting the tone for working there, for the collaboration, for if the, shit hits the fan, they're all looking to you. And I love that because you're getting enough sleep. You're taking care of yourself, maybe.
Generally.
Trying to.
I also think that, I think that having done this for far too long, putting on a multi-day event is kind of like you're getting on a plane ride. Everyone's nervous getting on the plane because how the hell is this thing going to get in the air? And then once it gets in the air, once it seems like it's flying okay, people calm down a little. But that first day, particularly, setting the tone then when everyone's a little bit on edge, they've never met these people around them, they're strangers, maybe I'm going to have, maybe this isn't all what it was cracked up to be. So within that concept of projecting positive vibes, particularly on that first day. And there are going to be people who are really frustrated about something, be as patient as possible to walk them through their problems. That's typically what we find is that most of our problems with someone who's not happy with the event happens the first day or the first day they're in town. And then they gradually acclimate to the community, the surroundings, and fit in, and the plane's flying, and they're enjoying their peanuts and pretzels, right?
Yeah. I can't believe you're still doing peanuts. Stop it. Hi, it's Kate. I can't believe you made it halfway through the show. Look, if you or anyone you know would like to be a guest on Humor in the C-Suite, I would love to have you. So email me, kate@katedavis.ca. Do you have any tips or advice for leaders and how they can use humor, like when they're dealing with their teams?
try to use humor to create a mood, create an atmosphere, create a vibe within your teams that will lead to productivity. There are times when humor is inappropriate, when there's serious challenges, and one needs to be careful on that. And I've certainly made mistakes where I've said things flippantly that I shouldn't have said flippantly, and I'm getting better at that. But there are plenty of times where the mood is right for some kind of joke, for some kind of breaking of the tension with something that is said in jest. And again, we talked about not making fun of other people. It's best to make fun of yourself, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a good way to kind of help break the ice also, or help break the tension.
Yeah, it's definitely a pressure valve.
Yeah.
That, can release the tension in the room and bring people together. Absolutely. And it's funny you say, sometimes we do have missteps, and it's acknowledging them and moving on and learning from them. So I think for me, humor is always being worth the risk. And I think it helps people really, because so often we think we can't laugh because we're afraid we're going to lose our sense of importance. Right. But the truth is, lightening up allows us to take risks. It allows us to think differently, to communicate differently. I was reading one book, and it said, there was a situation where they asked two groups to come up with the same advertising campaign, but one group was asked to come up with the worst ideas, and one group was asked to come up with the best ideas. And obviously the worst ideas were way funnier, right? Way better, because they didn't have that pressure on them. They could be more playful. They could be more themselves. And I think humor really does bring people, it really does help release the tension, but it really does help build meaningful relationships within that.
Yeah. Sure.
And especially because you have so many storytellers within the festival, and stories, people will listen to stats and all that, but people will always remember a story. They'll always remember the feeling they got from something.
Yeah, it's certainly one of our evergreen themes at South by Southwest is the power of storytelling, the power of narrative, the power of creating your own dialogue and creating your own voice there. And certainly a lot of the panels and presentations that are most popular with our attendees focus on that storytelling. And again, what I said a few minutes ago, there's some great AI technology out there that can create some really interesting stories, but I still think the people who have carbon do it better.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I mean, thank God AI can't write a joke, so we're safe. With everything that's going on, do you use the same amount of humor within your home life?
I try to. My wife is English is her second language, and I find out or am continually reminded that what I think is funny.
Yes.
She's not understanding the joke at all.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a reality check. The context is always incredibly important in any kind of situation like that. I've gotten, I think, a little bit better at mitigating those kinds of what I think are funny jokes and that don't land as well with her. But you probably have to ask her, and she would probably have a different opinion on whether I've mitigated that habit at all.
Yeah. Well, I've actually had quite a few leaders that I've interviewed say when they're working globally, if it's a business and you guys are spreading out now across the globe, that it is, dealing with culture and the difference between humor and that. So it definitely is. It is a thing, and people do connect with humor so differently depending on where you are in the world. Go to Finland, they don't laugh, or they'll smile and you're like, oh, you're laughing. So when you're dealing with young people coming up, just starting out within this industry, event planning and everything you're doing, is there any advice you like to give them? Because I know in my 20s, even though I'm just past my 20s now, even though I took myself way too seriously. And I find you sort of get over yourself as you're just like, yeah, I know nothing.
Well, I think that what I've learned, really the power of the importance, the relevance of that 10,000 hour rule, that the more you do something, the better you get at it, even if you're starting from place where you really suck.
Yeah.
And one of the things in my life that certainly has been a very positive change and to a degree of revelation, but fits into that perspective is when I first started doing this job in early 20s or mid 20s, I was absolutely terrified of public speaking. I mean, like a lot of us are, and would much.
Yeah.
I'm terrified of going to the dentist too, but I'd much rather go to the dentist than to public speak. I have now done it enough times. I'm not great at it by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm no longer quite as terrified or even terrified as I was before.
Yeah.
And I never thought I would get that way. And I really think it was, again, just the power of repetition, as well as the power of brutally analyzing myself after I got on stage and like, what did I do right? What did I do wrong?
Yeah.
Let's not do the wrong stuff again. Let's do better. And it's never a straight line. There are times when I'm like, God, I sucked today, but go back and try to figure it out. So back to your question, I think that when you're young or when you're starting something new and you're not good at it, that is certainly advice to remember, that just keep plugging away and you'll eventually get a little better and then a lot better. And that's how life works. I wish I'd known that when I was younger, but I've learned more of that as I've gotten past my 20s.
Yeah. Well, because you were speaking in Dubai, right?
I was lucky enough to be invited to speak at an
Amazing.
event. That was one where I didn't do particularly well.
Oh, why did I bring it up? No,
it's all good. It was one of those ones where it was a great event. The sound in the room wasn't so great, so I couldn't really hear the questions from the moderator. Right. And it's little things like that where when you're a speaker, I presume when you're a comedian, it throws off your whole rhythm. And afterwards, I went through the whole thing of like, how could I have prepared for that better? Well, I should have realized that or figured out what to do if I couldn't hear the questions. In all of these endeavors, to people on the other side, they probably don't have the same degree of
they probably loved it
that we do. So try to give yourself a little grace as hard as that is.
So true. Like, know your room. I just did one of my first shows in the US, and it was for a huge medical company. And I got there, it was just outside Chicago, but I was performing in their atrium. So it went up like 5 floors, and it was just like, with the balconies around it and all that. And I knew, because I'd done enough shows, that I had to slow down my pace because of the echo, and all the laughs were going to go up. And, and it made it easier for me knowing what I was walking into. But that's years of experience and different shows and horrible dance floors in front of me over the years, in ballrooms, and you get to know your space.
Again, it kind of fits into that whole idea of the more experience you have, the more you're able to take these things in somewhat in stride and, figure out ways to make it look like you know what you're doing, right?
Absolutely. I love it. So we always end with what's the funniest thing that's ever happened to you? Do you have a story you can share?
Another one, or the other one that I'm glad you primed me on this, because
I know. Yeah.
But here's my story. So when I came back, I grew up in Austin, went to school, small liberal arts college in Ohio, came back to Austin after that. And this was in the mid 80s. Print was still a thing. And I decided that I was going to start a newspaper. And so I started a alternative newspaper called the Austin Challenger. And I usually say that it was alternative not because of its politics, but because of its publishing schedule, which was supposed to be monthly, but was about every 6 weeks or so.
That's great.
But it was meant to be, covering politics, yada, yada, yada. So I remember maybe 1985 or so, we did an issue. This was when the AIDS crisis was beginning to mount. Okay. And we did an issue on, maybe it was brilliant, maybe it was completely dumb. It was what it was like to be gay in Austin. Okay. And talking to various communities within the gay community, within everything from politics to recreation, yada, yada, yada. How I would do this publication is we'd do the whole thing, and then inevitably I would write the editorial for the publication as the very last thing, like right before I turned it into the printer, which always meant that back to my, being tired thing. So I wrote this editorial about how there were all kinds of recreational options for gay people in Austin, which was a good thing because we celebrate diversity in Austin as even back in the 80s. So I wrote this great sentence about how there was all kinds of recreational options, including gay bowling leagues. Of course, this was not proofread before it went to the printer, and it came out as gay blowing leagues. It ended up putting into, if you ever read the New Yorker, those little things at the bottom of the columns of New Yorker, the typos or something. So, gay blowing
one letter
league
difference.
It's probably one of the more amusing typos of the 1980s.
Oh, wow. That's a great story. That's a great story.
This paper burned through a whole lot of, or a little bit of money, and it was something you do when you're 20 years old and you can live on ramen or whatever. But I eventually reduced a lot of my expenses by buying a Mac Plus, which was state of the art back then, and a laser printer. And that way I could do my own typesetting, which saved roughly $1,000 a month versus going to a commercial typesetter, which is what you used before. My point here is that my career at South by Southwest, or my tenure at South by Southwest, or my 30 plus years at South by Southwest started, I got hired because I had a computer and they didn't. So I was just kind of what was thrown into the deal to get the computer. Early 80s, mid 80s. I
love that.
Not everyone had computers like they do now. Again, my entree into this company, this event, this community was through the power of hardware. So there you go.
I love that. It's okay. I got a lot of gigs as a comic because I had a car. I get it. You got a car, you got the show. Yeah. You and your festival are magic. I just love everything you guys do. It is truly, truly just to be part of something that's so creative and really has an impact on the past and the future and the present. Like, it really is everything that makes us human. And everything about it, all the different arts, all the facets of it. You guys should be very proud. And I'm so grateful. I couldn't believe you said yes. I was like, I was just like, what? So I am so grateful for your time and your energy. Hugh, you're just amazing. And I wish you luck in March.
Thank you so much for the nice words.
No.
It means a ton. What you said, I mean, what we are is about, again, celebrating the power of human creativity. And I know a lot of events do that really well. And we're proud to be doing that also. And the many challenges we face in 2025, power of human creativity is really important. And to what you're doing, the ability to power through the pain and laugh at things when you can laugh at them, that's really important too.